Hey, what's going on, guys? Doing a follow-up video to our pre-production video, and the link will be in the comments below, so you can look at that first one if you haven't seen it. But we wanted to do a follow-up on this because there's actually a little bit more before you jump straight into the studio and start recording your songs and stuff like that. So in the first video, we kind of talked about, nailing down your songs. Are you doing an EP? Are you doing a full album? That type of thing, and getting all that stuff together and making sure that the songs and arrangements, the keys, all that stuff is figured out. So now your songs are ready to go, they're ready to be recorded. So at this point, now it's about, figuring out, where do we record this? What studio do we go to? Do we need a big room and a big space, or do we need just, kind of like a smaller, like homier studio that might just have a couple isolation booths because we're overdubbing things one at a time? So these are kind of the next steps and things to consider in pre-production. So really it's about planning and trying to use your time as effectively as you can and your budget. So that's why this step is really important, because you have your songs ready to go and you want to get in the studio and start recording right away. But really, we just got to make sure we do these final pieces here, which is budget. How much time do we have to make this? And what studio / engineer should we be using? Because at this point you should have your producer already, and you're just gonna, once you have those kind of things finalized, then you can actually go in and actually do the fun part, which is the recording part. All this planning is a little bit on the tedious side, and it's not exciting or really that fun, but it does make for you having the best overall experience when you're actually in the studio recording. So just to back up a step here, let's give an example of things to consider when picking out your studio. So let's say you're a band, you're a 4 or 5 piece band. You've got a couple guitar players, drums, bass, and you have vocals, and maybe some other auxiliary instruments that get used and things like that. Well, really now the question is, you and the producer have to decide, okay, are we at the point where we're good enough to perform as a band and track everything at the same time? And is that where the magic is? Is that what makes it special about what you're doing? Is that you guys playing as a group is kind of like, whoa, that's really exciting. That's the thing. Or are you more of a band where it's like, well, we should break it up. We really should just knock out drums and bass first, and then we'll do guitar overdubs followed by acoustics. So those two paths are very different. Doing everything at the same time as a full band, except for maybe not vocals, you might probably still gonna overdub those later. But doing everything at the same time is actually the most cost effective and time effective, because you're getting everything laid down together. You're not splitting it out. So that could be, if your budget is on the lower side, that could be the way you just need to do it, just because of your budget. But however, if you kind of like, we kind of need a little extra time to figure out a few sounds, parts, extra overdubs, any post-production, stuff like that, comping things or editing, any takes and stuff like that. If you're kind of like, we really do need a little bit of time doing that, just because that's what's best for us. That's kind of what the sound, that's just what we need to do to make our music right for us. Then maybe you don't need to go to a huge studio where you can track everything all at the same time. So if you're going to overdub it and just, do things one at a time, then a smaller studio would be fine, actually. And then their rate would probably be a little lower than the bigger studio. So it might actually equal out or be close to the same cost and stuff like that. So those are kind of the things that you really need to consider when you're looking for your studio and where you're going to record things. And I know everyone can record at home and do things at home, but some of the benefits to actually having a studio that you're recording at is the room itself. Like, your room at your house probably isn't treated very well. It's probably not really set up to do a bunch of recordings and stuff like that and do them in a very professional manner. And when you go to a pretty nice studio, they actually acoustically treated the room, so it could be very dry and dead. It could be that. You could also get something that's liver, and that's better for, if you need bigger sounding drums and things like that. Those are all factors that you kind of need to consider. And really, you're working with the producer, and you guys are making those decisions on what's best, for your sound. So these are kind of all those decisions that you really have to kind of figure out. But once you do realize what you're going to do, then it's book that studio, book with the amount of money that you have, and for the amount of time, for whether you're doing a single, an EP, or an album. and then you can kind of book that out, and then you can actually get to the fun part where everyone's, you know, excited, you're in the room and you're recording. So anyways, I just wanted to kind of add on to our first pre-production video and kind of let you guys know there's a little bit more. It's not as fun, but it's really important, and if you can figure that part out, you're gonna have a great time when you actually start recording stuff. All right, thanks guys.